Ali Cobby Eckermann is a dreamer, she's a gardener, she's a reader, she's a nomad, loves driving across this country, spends a fortune on petrol, but as a stolen generation survivor, I'm a believer in the practice of kindness and empathy, and I believe that you can learn from many places, not one institution of learning, that if you keep your heart and your ears open and true, that learning is everywhere. And that's the world that I want to share in my poetry and encourage. Poetry has been a liberation to me. It's been a medicine. I was very confused for my early years, into my early 30s. I met my mum when I was 34. I finally found her. I'd been on a long journey to find my family. And poetry enabled me to be a witness at the emotional change that was going on within my body, alongside the traditional healers in the desert who were my family. And so learning their old practices and me watching the changes that I could feel, the poetry came out of that. I think poetry is undervalued. I pray that more young people discover poetry in their early years, that it becomes the equivalent of song and music. It's a powerful genre for people to understand the world and themselves in a private arena, but also in a shared arena. Some people will say poetry saved my life. When I received the news that that I was successful for the fellowship, I was filled with both a joy and a confidence. The shortlist was filled with people that I admired, so it really was a compliment. The residency at Bundanon allowed me to explore more my poetry, and I think bring it back to some playfulness. There's times in our poetic lives where we get very serious and what's happening in our families or our society around us. And residencies, I think, can allow a little bit of freshness and a little bit of playfulness. And that's always a good thing at any age, even as a grandmother. Working with the schools in that environment was, working with the schools in that environment, in the outdoors, was really fabulous. And it was important to have some knowledge from the Aboriginal viewpoint before we started that. But yeah, just, kangaroos and wombats schnuffling around. Always has to be good for poetry. I think I write my best poetry in nature, and the residency at Bundanon is a beautiful place for that. Yeah, I was really surprised at the response from the school students, how immersed they were. And I think, again, it's because there was a classroom without walls. I've just, in my life experience, poetry is so important to me. And again, it's about accessibility. I think so many more people can benefit from poetry. And historically, poets had quite a place in society. In both Indigenous culture and all cultures, I believe. It would be nice to see the rise of poets back in schools, visiting prisons, just really respected for what poetry can bring to a person, how poetry can change a life, how one poem can become a mantra or a affirmation that might help a person through a difficult period of their life. The reading, the education, the writing of poetry, I hope, grows and grows and grows.